Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Technical Tim here, and I want to thank everyone so much who's been liking all my videos and subscribing to the channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, or subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm just going to do a... Gugabe and I were going to do a podcast this week, but unfortunately we just kind of couldn't get matched up on the correct schedules, because I'm in Chicago, he's in Australia, so sometimes we kind of just... we can't match up, but we'll get one out next week. And because I couldn't do that, I'm going to just do a final thoughts video. And you guys know this, know the drill here. I kind of go through every single fight on the card. And the ones I don't have action on, I won't say too much. I don't want to waste your time. And the ones I do have action on, I will actually go a little more in depth and just throw it at the top of the card. Have a little action on, and I'll go through. Have a little action on Dern, have some action on Pena, then I have like a mixture of Joanna action as well, and like a parlay or two, and then just straight, even at her juice odds. But yeah, I'll go through the card now. So Vera and Andre Ewell, the way I see this is, it's an annoying fight to bet because the win conditions are so obvious for both guys. Vera does not have good striking numbers, and Ewell's probably the better boxer and overall more consistent striker. But Vera could probably get this to the mat at some point and get a submission. But the thing is, Vera lands less than a takedown per 15 minutes, so it's kind of like, will it go to the mat? So it's just one of those kind of frustrating type of fights where if Vera decides to come out with a game plan, he could probably win pretty easily because I think he'd kind of dominate on the mat. But I don't know, I like, if I were forced to play it, I'd probably play Andre Ewell, but I'm not playing this fight. It's a mess. Aldrich Mueller, another pass. Sanchez Vettori, I think the line's a little wide here. I do think Vettori's going to win, but I do think Sanchez can cause some issues. But this is he's a high volume striker. Like, Sanchez lands a lot, and he also just kind of forces wrestling exchanges. I mostly think the wrestling will nullify here, and I do think Vettori's a little more dangerous and sharper as a striker. I tend to think Vettori's going to win, but I could see an upset here. I wouldn't be that shocked, but I'm just going to pass, and I think this is a good fight just to kind of kick back and live bet and just understand that Sanchez does seem to slow down. So just have that in your back pocket if you're going to live bet this fight. Aldana Baeza, pass. I'm not going to even spend time talking about that fight. Figueiredo and Elliott, my philosophy on Figueiredo is he's extremely difficult to cap because I've talked about, I've never bet one of his fights because his athleticism and power just make things extremely unpredictable, and it causes high variance, meaning there can be several different outcomes in a fight. Because he has such high power, he can swing an entire round and get even a knockout, or he could just not land and then land that big shot, and then he could like lose because he actually doesn't land that many strikes per minute. So and then his wrestling is kind of like, his wrestling and grappling is hard to kind of analyze too because it's based a lot on athleticism. There's some skill in it, but he'll just kind of explode out of certain situations that a less athletic and powerful guy wouldn't be able to get away with. So it's kind of hard to analyze. I tend to think Elliott is a bit of a live dog here, but it's just really, really hard to know. I think Figueiredo fights are generally kind of hard to cap, so I just kind of stay away from him and don't waste my time because I feel like I can kind of maybe find an edge on different fights. I understand every stylistic fight is different, and the odds can always be different, so you still have to see if there's an opportunity for a Figueiredo fight, but I think him as like a bit of a favorite is fine here. It's a little bit unpredictable. I'm just going to pass. Clark Spann. Eventually I'm going to get Ryan Spann. He's going to be a favorite. The optimal result for me here, I'm not going to play this fight, but the optimal result is for Spann to get a knockout and then him be favored against somebody or closely lined against somebody who will dominate him. Like, the Best result is Spann getting a knockout, and then he's like even money versus Magomed Ankalaev. Something like that. That would be amazing. And then I would max bet Ankalaev. I just don't think... It's just Clark can win this fight. It's just... He doesn't hold people down all that well. But Spann didn't look great off his back on some of the LFA fights I saw him in and against Luis Henrique. But this fight's a little bit of a mess, I think. And... big shots can land for both guys, so it makes a little high variance of a fight, so hard to predict from a bettor's end. I'm going to pass. Price and Vic. I'll never play Nico Price as a favorite, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Never will. I've luckily stayed away from most of his fights, so I've never got burned. Or, I think I might have had means in a parlay or something, so I got burned there, but I played somebody who beat him over him. But luckily I haven't been burned by the Nico memeness too much, so that's good. And I'll never play him as a favorite because he gets hit way too much, but even though he has a terrible striking ratio, he hits fucking hard. So that's always kind of a concern with Vic. You guys know me. My philosophy is to be skeptical of knockout-dependent fighters, and I almost always bet against them. And I'll take the volume guy and the consistent round winner all day. But this one is kind of tough because Vic has been knocked out a lot recently. But to be fair to Vic, it's against Gaethje and Hooker, who both land at a high rate. So they're going to have a lot of knockout opportunities, but it did happen quick. And Nico doesn't land all that much, but he does tend to land some big shots consistently. Even though like he's not landing at a high clip, he stuns people a lot. So I could see him just putting away Vic, but I wouldn't bet Nico at that line. I think Vic was a good play, like kind of early in the week when he was around like plus 150 to 170. He still might even be a good play, to be honest, at plus 125. But this fight just kind of, I don't want to touch it. There's easier opportunities to cash on fights compared to this one, I feel. And it's just a little scary. There's red flags either way. I'm going to pass. Anders Meerschaert, this is a weird fight. I tend to think Anders should win fine, especially if he fights smart. But I mean, look what he did against Khalil Roundtree. He just stood at the perimeter and got picked off by leg kicks, and then everyone thought that Roundtree was like amazing because of it, but I still think it was just because Anders did not fight the way he should have. But I just don't like Meerschaert's the way he wins fights, because he kind of just will get beat up, give up his back, and then like reverse position and get a submission. And that's kind of something I don't want to rely on. And Anders seems decently, as far as like a positional and defensive wrestler, like not amazing or anything, but he's a strong, athletic dude. He grew up wrestling as well a little bit, so I could see him just kind of stuffing and just landing the bigger shots, more consistent shots, and kind of bullying Meerschaert. I don't want to play him at like minus 160 or anything, though, because this is still a guy who will... I mean, against Tim Williams, even when he had a huge advantage, he just wasn't throwing strikes and was dropping rounds to Tim Williams. So it's kind of scary to bet him as a minus 160. But I do think Anders is probably going to win, but no interest. Here's my first pick of the card. I'm a little bit on Luis Pena over Frivola. A lot of people are on Frivola. I don't listen to much MMA content like podcasts or anything, but I do occasionally listen to there's like two I listen to. They're all on Frivola, which I disagree. I think Pena has a lot of advantages here, and Luis Pena just isn't Justin Turner, in my opinion, especially as a grappler, and a grappler who will make you pay for being sloppy as a wrestler, where Turner would just stop takedowns and kind of, or scramble out and just disengage and get away, where Pena can put Frivola in bad spots here. Like, Frivola is super sloppy in some of his takedowns as a grappler, and I'm just not sold by Frivola's ability to really hold position. So the way I see it is Pena is way bigger, way longer, and he has a big volume edge here. And I even think Luis Pena, he lands 3.8 significant strikes per minute, but I think and he doesn't get hit that much, but I think his offensive, I think he's actually more of a volume guy than that. I think he can land more in the upper fours. And I think his fight versus Trezano, he had the game plan of just wrestling, because Trezano is picking him off with low kicks. And so he had like no volume in that fight because he was just going for wrestling the whole time. But that's not how he's going to fight against Matt Frevola. He's going to sprawl and brawl and create grappling situations whenever he's forced to defend and scrambles, and then just kind of beat him up on the feet, in my opinion. And I do think Frivola's fully capable of winning this fight with top position, but he doesn't land enough strikes whenever he has position, and Pena's guard is it's really hard to pass his guard. There's only been a couple people to do it, and they don't do it for long stretches. So I think even if Frevola gets him down, he's not going to be able to put enough emphasis at times. I mean, if he holds him down for like entire rounds just in his guard, I guess, like, yeah, I mean, he would win. I just don't know if he's capable of doing that, because I think Pena's good at using submissions to create scrambles, and just, I think he's dangerous with some submissions, and Frivola's pretty sloppy on the mat. Like, Frevola can string together a good takedown attempt, but I think Pena is a little bit better of a wrestler than people give him credit for, and especially when you add in his scrambling ability. And Turner just isn't Pena, man. It's much different, and I don't think Turner's going to be I don't think Pena will be nearly as hesitant to kind of just throw down and kind of pressure Frevola and force him to make bad shots. I don't think he'll be as hesitant as Turner. And also, Frevola likes to shoot. Every now and then he'll go for a single leg, and whenever you shoot a single leg on Pena, that's usually the double's kind of what gets Pena down, but Frevola will use that single leg, and Pena uses his free leg whenever you shoot a single, and kind of his height and leverage to then take your back. And I just think Pena's going to be landing so much and creating so many scrambles, and he actually throws strikes from top position, to where I think even if Frevola gets stretches of top time and guard, I don't think Frevola will do enough damage to compensate for the offense that Pena scores. And honestly, I think Pena's control from top position, I think, is better than Frivola's. Like, I think Frivola's takedowns are better, but Pena uses body triangles and things to hold you down, and Frevola just doesn't seem to have as much control. I know I'm shitting on him and kind of ranting at this point, but I just think Frevola, he has a win path of top time, and I don't think he's going to be passing guard all that frequently, and so I think his offense is kind of limited there, so I'm on Pena. Dern and Ribas, small play on Dern. The way I see this fight is Ribas is a black belt, and Dern is really fucking high level on the floor, and I've seen Ribas have bottom man tendencies against Whitmire and a fight before that against Gonzalez. And Dern, whenever she's on her back, she'll do like a leg lock sweep and take your back and threaten. And so I think Dern's the better grappler, and I think she'll be the top man in this fight, and Ribas will kind of be on the floor. And I think if Dern gets on top, Ribas will be in a lot of trouble. And the thing is, like, so I think I just gave my brief reasons as to why I think Dern's the better grappler, and especially once it's on the mat. I think in the clinch is where Ribas can maybe do better. But so once it's on the mat, I think Dern's better. And the thing is, Ribas, all her fights, her primary way to win is by grappling. So it kind of tells me that she might grapple Dern. And if she does, I think she's kind of fucked. And so then the other method, and I see a lot of people saying like she can outstrike Dern, and people shit on Dern's striking, but when I watched it, I thought it's not great, but for like a regional type of fighter like Ribas is pretty much a regional fighter and beat Emily Whitmire, and I don't think Emily Whitmire's all that great. And she used her grappling to win. And so for like a fighter who we've never seen her striking, I'm not convinced that she's automatically going to be a better striker than Dern. Dern lands at a high rate. Let me look up the exact numbers, and I was noticing it in her fight, and she's super aggressive. But Dern has landed 4.87 significant strikes landed per minute, and she only gets landed on 3.32. So she keeps up a high pace and doesn't get hit that much. And I tend to think, like, just playing statistics, like Ribas might show up and be a better striker, but we don't know that. And just to assume that that Ribas is better than like decent numbers that Dern already has, and we've never even seen her fight from that position, and she's been knocked out by Poliana Viana long time ago, but we don't have any other data than that. But just to assume she can beat Dern there is, like, I'm not convinced. I think it's just as likely Dern has a massive striking advantage. I think it's more likely Dern has a massive striking advantage than Ribas coming in and having a massive striking advantage. Because we've seen Dern, she's aggressive and throws at a high rate, and I doubt that Ribas can just school her on the feet. She might beat her on the feet, but I don't think she can school her. Where if Dern just dominates on the feet, it won't surprise me. But who knows? Like, that's why I'm not going to play big here, because it's a bit of an unknown on Ribas' striking, but I'm just kind of playing assumptions, kind of. Like, if we haven't seen someone striking, I'm not going to just assume it's good. It's probably, like, I don't know. It's probably not as good as Dern's. I don't know. But we'll find out. But that's why I'm only going to go a unit, because I don't like playing, like, big units on a little bit of unknowns in matchups. Like, I like to have a lot more data. But, yeah, like, I think Dern's should definitely have a grappling advantage, and in the striking, she may have a striking advantage, and we're going to find out. I think Ribas should clinch up a lot against the cage and make it an ugly fight there. Maybe she can hit some takedowns, but even if she hits a takedown, I think Dern will just sweep her. And just to put it into context, Dern has only been subbed like 4 times, I think, against the best of the best in the world, and 3 of them were to Gabby Garcia, where she was giving up like 100 pounds. So Dern is super high level. She's one of the best no-gi grapplers in the world, so I think she'll have a big advantage there. So the odds are close, too. Like, I got Dern at minus 125. She's still hovering around at minus 130, so yeah, I think I'm totally fine playing Dern, even though there's a little bit of unknowns. Davis and Gifford, no interest. I'm guessing Davis will probably win. Gifford just kind of plays guard. Gracie and Swanson, I'm not going to go into this. It's pretty binary. I understand the Swanson plays, but at the same time, I get scared because one little takedown and Gracie probably subs him. But I could see Swanson sprawling and brawling, but yeah, it's just kind of whatever. And then Joanna and Waterson. I got Joanna a while ago in the minus 200s, and she went back down into the minus 200s just a couple days ago whenever the weight cutting issues were coming up. And I just think, you guys already saw my get up videos, so I tend to think Joanna will be able to get up, and she just has a huge volume edge, and that's kind of the main reasoning for my pick, because I think she's just going to be landing way more strikes, and I don't think she'll be held down a lot. I think Waterson will probably need a finish here to win. Like, I think it's possible Waterson can win a decision. I just think it's a low percentage, and a lot of things would have to go her way. But I think she would need a finish here, and it's MMA, anything can happen, but I just tend to think Joanna has some of the most cage time out of any women. I think she might have the most cage time out of any women in the UFC, and she's been finished once by Rose, and Rose hits fucking hard, so she survived Andrade, Valentina, Rose in the second fight, and a lot of other fights, and she's been like hit a few times, but with hours of cage time, I don't think her getting hurt a few times is all that much to worry about, and I think her surviving against a lot of those other fighters, she should be fine. She fights hands a lot and well, so I think the back takes will be limited for Waterson, but it could happen. I think like a Waterson club and sub would be, like if she happened to hurt Joanna and just got like a rear naked choke, I think that would be something I could see happening. I just think it's low percentage. But just to emphasize the volume edge, I did a write-up on this fight to like people who buy my picks, and I'm just going to read like one little sentence from it. Sorry, hold on one second. Sorry. But just to like put into context the volume, I put Michelle lands 3.61 strikes per minute and absorbs 3.07. This is a respectable clip, but many of her strikes in her fights come from top position, which I do not expect her to maintain enough of in this matchup. Joanna lands 6.07 strikes per minute and absorbs 2.77. This is elite and the best in all of women's MMA. Joanna has a big volume edge, and if this stays striking for more than 15 total minutes of the fight, which I think it will, I see it hard. I think it's going to be hard for Michelle to land more strikes. And then Joanna has had 6 5-round fights go to the cards. In her victories, she outstruck her opponents at an astonishing 220 to 103, 176 to 63, 171 to 50, and 225. In those fights, she hovers around 400 total strikes attempted. And versus Valerie Letourneau, she attempted 448, which is just kind of crazy. And even in her 5-round decision losses to Valentina and Rose, she actually outstruck them in total strikes. But they kind of landed harder shots, which gave them the round, so they rightfully won. And then to kind of look at Michelle's volume, she hasn't had any 5-round fights in the UFC, but in her 4 3-round decision fights, she's landed 66 of 140 strikes, 77 of 103 strikes, 131 of 163 strikes, and 64 of 149 strikes. If you prorate that to a 5-round fight, she would have fallen in the average of landing about 100 strikes out of 200 attempted. And that's about half of what Joanna will land, what Joanna averages. And a lot of those were ground strikes, just so you know. And yeah, so that's kind of like what I was projecting and kind of talking about. And I think Joanna will be close to the 150 to 200 mark here. And Michelle will probably be like 50 to 100. That's kind of just what I expect. But yeah, so that's kind of everything. But I just wanted to throw the numbers out there, and that's all I have. And if you guys have any comments or questions, just comment below. Thank you.